The three theorems of psychohistorical quantitativity. The population under scrutiny is oblivious to the existence of the science of psychohistory. The time periods dealt with are in the region of 3 generations. The population must be in the billions for a statistical probability to have psychohistorical validity.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 5 of Foundation Analysis, Upon Awakening. Content warning for the episode, Suicide. This episode is quite interesting because it focuses mainly on Gale. We're back to her, and we start with a flashback with her swimming and having a bit of a dream sequence. There's a monologue about her fear of black holes, or more specifically, the event horizon, a point at which once you are past it, you can no longer return, one which she will experience in her life, but not the way they are described in a black hole. So we flash back to Gale's childhood, and we see her witnessing a baptism, or an analogy of a baptism. And we also notice that during these scenes, Gale is out of sync with everyone else, especially during the prayers. She then, along with several others, are sent to investigate the abandoned university. And during their search, we see that it has been abandoned relatively recently because all of the structures there are wood, and also the sea level is rising. That is a common theme in the dialogue for the planet. And so we see that the floor of the university is slightly submerged. It's about knee height. And so it's relatively recently that this cleanse has begun. And while Gale is searching, she finds a friend of her parents who she knew during her childhood, and is a instructor or doctor, or was an instructor when the university was open, and they're scavenging books which are considered heretical. And Gale picks up one of her sayings from this interaction and is offered the Book of Folding, a parallel to the offer Harry did earlier in the series, or this is the one that he would unwittingly be referencing chronologically. She, of course, declines, and the two other individuals who joined her on this search eventually find her confronting, or quote-unquote holding him in dialogue, when in reality she is conflicted and asking him to abandon the things and disappear. And so he's taken into custody, and then we go to an execution scene, which is quite interesting because the individuals are literally drowned with the books. They drown the knowledge and the people together, and that heavy. That's a lot, It is a very clear message and ideology and statement, and wow. It is important to note that Gale is given the task of tying the book, or one of the books, to the execution cluster, we will say, and mentioned that this will cleanse her, implying that they are concerned about her or what have you. And it's also important to note that the head priest is crazy. The actor portraying her does a amazing job with the conviction crazy eyes for a background character. Sells it. Oh yeah. So next we have Gale swimming out to get the book, and she has to pass by basically a sea, or a garden of bodies. There are several corpses lined along the water, all in the same fashion, all with these books tied to their moorings. And so it's not just a one-off. This has been going on for a while, and lots of people have been purged, which is when it's also knowledge that they are intentionally purging. That interesting cultural dynamic that you're cultivating there is all I can say. She is able to salvage the Book of Folding, which is of course important. During breakfast, she mentions, or begins a discussion with her father about how the ecology of the planet is dying, because he mentions that he has to go out further to get algae for his job. And there's, no brokering of that discussion. And during her downtime, she works on the folding problem or hypothesis of Abraxas. That is what gets her the attention of Harry Seldon. And eventually she sends out a message, and the fallout and danger of that is quite interesting because there is only one, kind of hub or communication. They as a culture eschew on Synax issue technology and or communication with science so it is difficult. She basically has to smuggle a message to the university where Harry is working, and rumor mills being what they are, small town, etc., eventually it is found out that there's someone sent a message and it's a thing and all of that. And of course, because if someone's messaging about a math problem or a contest, well, math bad. And we eventually find out, because she gets a response, that her proof is correct. And what is quite interesting about this is when she finds out, she thanks the sleeper, which it implies that she still believes, unless, of course, it is a cultural mannerism. Because pretty quickly after that, she leaves the church. She has her stones removed, and there is clearly a falling out with her parents. And then we jump forward to the now, where the pod is picked up and, quite interesting, splits into two, which I thought immediately was like, it's almost like they're designed to meet up. And then Gale wakes up to a whole lot of fun. She is stuck in the airlock. She has a lung full of fluid. She is in shock because she witnessed a murder and then, from her perspective, was abandoned and left adrift and is completely disorientated. And that's before her getting preserved, we'll say. So she has a little bit of a freak out, understandably so. And then eventually the knife that was used to kill Harry is used by her to try and pry open the door. And then eventually it kind of magnetically connects itself to a slot in the door. And it starts to open, and we get a recording of the Raish Foss arrival protocol, implying that this is not who's supposed to be here. And after a quick little dialogue with the computer, we find out that Gale has been asleep for about 35 years, which is, of course, now with what is happening on Terminus. Speaking of Terminus, we go back to them now, and the fence is being attacked. The invading force has set up basically a boxing in action. They have a force at each of the north, south, east, and west, and they test the fence with their small arms. But the force field of Imperial design is secure and able to withstand it. And that's about when the Imperials show up. We get a Imperial battleship with a Marine contingent on board, and they start to address the situation, throw their weight around, and have some communication with the Foundation leadership, who, after a little bit of back and forth, insists that they bring the Huntress to the tower for an interrogation so that the Marine captain can speak with her. Saldor, of course, objects because she feels that it is what they have wanted from the very beginning of being captured and or invading. Like they were always intended to get to the tower, so maybe don't take them to the tower. But then we cut back to the ship, and Gale is having some trouble with the computer. She is trying to figure out what she actually is authorized for, and it looks like public records. And using that and the sensor data that she can easily grasp, she's able to get her bearings, figure out when she is, and looks into two deaths, particularly Harry's and Raish's. And during Raish's execution video, he actually turns and talks to her, which is kind of a touching moment, but also a little outside of the context of this show. That's super weird in universe. And then, of course, we cut back to Terminus, because chopping back and forth, quick succession and action, you gotta love it. So we cut back to the tower, and the Huntress rips out her prosthetic eye, and it turns out that her prosthetic has a EMP in it, which she sets off, taking down the fences, allowing her forces to invade the Foundation town proper. We then cut to the ship again, and we see Gale at a pretty difficult spot. Content warning for suicide. So Gale She's at a low point. She goes to the medical cabinet and gets a scalpel, and then she goes into the shower, and she is basically overcome with death and loss that she has experienced in quick succession from her perspective. And then there is an amazing shot, which also looks like it would hurt like heck. It's a shot of her basically going into 0G for a split second as the ship reorientates itself. And the fact that there is a water effect, it looks amazing, yet worth watching the episode for. And of course, the question then becomes, what is that? And her inquisitive mind is what snaps her out of that funk. And so she now has a puzzle to fix, and so she will try and figure it out. And during her travels, we see her pass through the dock where the knife is, and it looks like it is either losing power or it is trying to connect to something, which is a interesting thing to note, because it does frame on that intentionally right before it cuts scenes to the attack, or more specifically, a rather bloodless attack. Honestly, the invading forces open up quite liberally, and very few hits, it appears like, so I don't exactly know what type of weaponry they're using, but seems super not effective. Anyway, that could just be an issue of the production, because of course part of this was filmed during the pandemic, which caused problems, of course. So that could be just that, or it could be because maybe they're not trying to kill everyone, maybe it's an invasion, maybe they want the planet, maybe they want the population. And then we have a scene of the Marines gearing up, looking very sweet, getting all that Imperial sweet top tier gear on, ready to expense the badassery and look awesome doing it. And then we get Selden and Mira in a confrontation. We get a throwdown fight battle, and it is pretty cool. There is some sweet CG work with the left eye there. And then the confrontation is ended because, well, it turns out her mom got captured not once but twice, because she rescued her from Mira, and then she got captured again. So thanks, Mom. Then we cut back to the ship, which is quite interesting and cool because ships. And Gale suits up to head out to try and figure out a exact coordinate or get a frame of reference using her Mark 1 eyeball, her good old line of sight, because apparently the computer is not giving her complete information. And using that information, she is able to figure out that where they are heading is a planet that is orbiting a dark star. We then cut back to Terminus, where in the tower we see from Salvor's perspective the destruction and or conquering of the Foundation. And there's some great back and forth about feelings and experiences and what they are witnessing. I think it is great. Top marks, as always. We then cut back to the ship, and Gale is back into the ship and desuiting and heading into the bridge to talk to the computer to try and figure things out and change course, because they're headed for Helcon. And that is the name of the planet that Harry is from. The person who she's implicated in the murder of. So she's not super jazzed on going there. But she can't get a response from the computer. That's curious. What's going on? And then eventually she finds Harry laying on the ground. But it's not him. He fractures. He stutters. He has a moment of lag, we'll say, which leads me to believe, and now we are going into the subjection or conjecture of the episode, that the vault isn't on Terminus. The vault is the ship. And instead of pre-recorded messages from Harry about the projections, etc., they somehow, through space magic, technology, wizardry, transferred his consciousness or knowledge into the knife, which then transferred into the ship, which is then making a hologram. But that's just my hypothesis. So anyway, this has been episode 5 of Foundation Analysis Upon Awakening. This project is supported by the On the Origin of Battlemechs podcast Patreon. If you enjoy it and want to hear more of my discussion of Foundation, please let me know and possibly give your support there. Special thanks to my friend Treble for the intro and outro. Everybody have a great day and hope to see you next episode.
Don't you see? It's galaxy-wide. It's a worship of the past, a deterioration, a stagnation.
So we cut to the tower and... Hello, buddy.